Do you love the Tabernacle Choir? This year, the choir's music is everywhere you are. Listen to your favorite choir songs and music and the spoken word anytime you want on Alexa by simply enabling the skill.
Alexa, play music in the spoken word.
Now playing music in the spoken word.
You can also download the Tabernacle Choir app, subscribe to the choir on YouTube, listen on Spotify, and have access to all their wonderful music. Happy listening.
DJ and PK, it is time for the question of the morning, and it is the question on everybody's mind. Rob Wright III into the transfer portal. What should the Cougars do? What can they do? There's both what to do here in the short run with him and then what to do in the long run with how much can you count on guys when they transfer in. I mean, if some guy comes in, he has 1 year left, that's one thing. But to invest in a sophomore, to know you're going to have to help him get better and he's got to improve. But if he's only committed for 1 year, is it really worth it? There are so many questions, PK. Any of these, first off, are there any of these scenarios where the answer is easy?
No.
Or are they all really complicated?
It's most definitely complicated. BYU, by their own acknowledgement, by one of the higher-ups, as practically as high as you can go in church leadership, has told us multiple times that BYU is different, okay? That's their thing. They'll tell you over and over they're different. And so you're going to bring in a kid who, I think he's from Delaware, who went to Baylor, and then you're going to bring him into Provo, Utah, and sure, he can embrace it for a time. But what connection is there outside of cash? Let's really boil it down and have some honest talk here. And I think Kevin Young needs to reevaluate everything here. You have a kid who is from Utah, Farmington. Where was Dallin Hall from? Somewhere
Plain
up there.
City, Utah.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where Plain City is, but
Fremont High School, though.
Okay, I know that. I don't know
Go to
exactly
Ogden.
where it is. It's up.
Go to
north.
Ogden. Yeah, go to Ogden, hang a left, and drive halfway to the lake. There's a bunch of, it was farm country, but there are a lot of houses out there
Well,
now.
if I drive all
There's
the
a
way
lot
at
of
the lake,
houses.
I'll be at the lake. And so
Halfway.
And then I'm, and then I only got a few more miles to go, and I'm at the lake. And so he's a BYU kid, serves a mission, blah, 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 blah. And he has to transfer out. You bring in this kid. Now, I realize Hall's a senior, so he was going to be gone anyway. And you bring in Wright. And what's the point, really? What is the point? He runs the point, but are you really sure you're going to have this kid for anything that you can build? If he leaves now, that you just wasted that year, basically. He's a good player, but what connection does he have to BYU? BYU is different. You tell us that they're different, and so you bring in outsiders, and do they really want to stay there, or they're just mercenaries taking the highest bid? And you can love them up all you want, and I'm sure that they did, but there's no connection there. There's no, this is where I want to be. I just saw a thing with Uvale, the linebacker who went to Cal, and he's talking about, this is where I am, man. This is where I'm supposed to be. I prayed about it, blah, blah, blah. He's obviously an LDS guy, I assume, right? And so he has this strong connection. This is where he wants to be. And so it is. What grade is he? Is he a senior, Yak, or junior?
You double check on that.
All right, he'll double check on that. You never know with these kids what grade they're in, and so there's something special about BYU. What is there something special about BYU for a kid like Rob Wright? Hey, I don't blame him, man. His coach at Baylor said they thought he had him under contract, and then he left. Well, that ought to tell you right there. He's coming to BYU for the money, and by my goodness, come for the money. Stay for the money. Go ahead and do that. But is this what we're going to have now? Is this what BYU is going to become, a basketball factory where kids just change all the time? You bring in kids and they're one and done and all that. Are you going to be left unsatisfied year after year with these kids just coming in? Or do you want a BYU kid? Do you want a Richie Saunders who's going to be there? You want to, and they don't even have to be LDS. Jamal Williams? Who's Jamal Williams? He's a BYU guy. He shows up all the time at BYU, does he not? Yes. And as I understand it, Where does he live, Yock? He lives in Utah, or at least he has a house here.
Yeah, he's living here, I think, full-time now.
Right. He's a BYU guy. So I don't care what your religion is. But give me BYU guys, please. I just don't know this is the way to go. Or you just say, hey, listen, man, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get the best players, and then we'll reload. And right, you just open up the internet. Oh, BYU has reached out to San Jose transfer Colby Gardner or Garland. He's a potential guy who can run the point, play some guard for you. And you look at, according to what's on the internet, Kansas State, Indiana, Nebraska, Syracuse, Oregon, a bunch of pretty good basketball schools are after him. So the kid probably has some talent, right? Or do you just go down this road every year? Or do you need to step back and say, we're going to do it the BYU way because we're different? Is this the way? Because this isn't different. This is the lay of the land now. You bring in a kid, you pay him a bunch of money, and then boom, he's out the door, and you got to start all over again. Or do you just say, we're going to pay him whatever, we will not be outbid. You will not outbid us. So now, if somebody bids, do you just match it or do you make it higher? How do you go? I'm throwing stuff out, and I realize that my tone is harsh, so it sounds negative and all that, but I got passion on this. And guys from the East Coast, you just saw Dan Hurley. I'm not MFing anybody. Guys from the East Coast, when they have passion, their voices get animated, all right? Just got to deal with it.
All right. Don't go Dan Hurley's mom on us. Hold on to that. I think there's multiple things to unpack. You just raced through, in my mind, 6, 7, even 8 scenarios. I'm not even sure I can remember them all. I think the first thing is, what's the goal? Like, if you are bound and determined that at some point we're going to be a Final Four team, so we're no longer, it's BYU and Missouri, the two teams with the most NCAA tournament appearances without ever going to a Final Four. If you're bound and determined to get that off your resume, I don't think you can go with the one scenario you laid out in that whole list of scenarios, which is, we're going to do this with BYU guys. Because if you were going to do it with BYU guys, then you probably would have already done it. And you've been to a couple of Sweet 16s doing it that way, one with Ainge and one with Jimmer. And then you start changing the formula last year and you get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, but
so
I disagree with that.
What you want.
I disagree with that.
You got to decide what you want.
Because
with what?
BYU guys now means different than BYU guys in 1981. Let's call it like it is.
Okay,
that 1981 team was full of LDS guys, and they were all Mormons. And to a large extent, that's what you had with Jimmer.
Mm-hmm.
You can get Dielman, in my mind, is a BYU guy, right? He only played one season, but he loves them up left and right. He's a BYU guy. So my point is the canvas of recruiting and the pool of recruiting for BYU has opened up a lot more since they allowed the players to wear earrings.
So there's a difference between, it's not just church players and not church player. It's church player, and then you're not church player, but you are BYU guy.
Yes.
Right. And
yes.
then there's also I'm highest bidder player over here.
Yes.
Right? You got another group of players. I'm
yes.
they're not old enough to have seen the movie when it came out in theaters. Maybe they've seen it since then streaming. But show me the money guy. Right. So
I went to Arizona State. I'm a Sun Devil.
See? So you can, and then also I think there's okay, you show me the money guy, but you're a junior or senior. Because we have seen, and this goes back at least 20 or 30 years, we've seen JC guys come in and think, all right, this isn't really my thing, but I can do it for 18 months.
Yes, they've told them that. They've pitched that in recruiting.
Literally, right?
Yes.
And the 18 months isn't the same as going to a freshman and sophomore and saying you got 3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
It just lands different. First off, guys are maturing and getting more focused on what they want to do with their lives.
Yes.
So that's changing. And then also it's just the time element. It's just not as long a time. We can all do stuff we don't really want to do for a short period of time.
Yeah.
The longer the time gets, the bigger the ask. So, but I think to get back to your original point about church guy, BYU guy, in the Venn diagram with all the overlapping.
And I love Venn diagrams.
I know you do. I see you sketching them out during the commercial breaks. That don't turn away the church BYU guy because not all the church people want to go to BYU. We've seen that, right? We've seen people going to Duke. We've seen people going to Stanford. But if you're the church person, the return missionary and all that, and you're also the BYU, like, don't push those people out of the program. And the third thing is you got to be good enough, right?
Got to be good
You're
enough,
good
most
enough
definitely.
To play
Kevin Young's paid to win basketball games. So, I agree with you 100%.
Right. So don't push away. That's the first thing. Before you decide who you are or aren't going to get, at the core, if that's church person, return missionary, BYU, and capable of playing 20 or 30 minutes for an NCAA tournament team, you got to hold on to that guy. Don't lose those players. You got to invest in them. In some cases, they may not be 20, 30-minute player as a freshman, but they can grow into that by the time they're a junior. You've got to find room in your program for those program guys.
Yes.
Now, when you start evaluating people who are coming from everywhere else in the country, and who knows what kind of church background they do or don't have, or for that matter, anywhere else in the world, some people still fit. And you're still going to have those players on your team. I mean, Keba Keita came. He didn't leave after 1 year. He came back into the second year. So I think he fits under that BYU guy definition. That's where you got to do your homework and know people and know the family situation. And I think even what part of the country you come from. You were telling me 30 years ago, hey, it's coming to Utah from the Midwest is different than coming to Utah from the West Coast. Look how many Midwest guys are transferring out, and look how many West Coast guys, not from here, and it's different, but they can figure it out. They can figure their way, and it really pays off both for the player and the school. Right. So you got to dig into all of those subtleties. And that doesn't mean you can't bring someone in from California and they bolt after a year because they get a bigger payday. Right. But I do think bringing people in from Texas, especially, and from the Eastern time zone, there are just so many schools in these places. And if you shine, and if you're trying to hold on to somebody for 3 years, if you're right and you get the player and you start winning and the player's performing, the line of schools is going to be massive. That's the other reason it's safer to take kids from the Mountain time zone or from the Pacific time zone. Like, there aren't as many big time schools. If you're truly going to play big time basketball in this side of the country, I mean, you can go to Arizona, you can go to Gonzaga. There's a handful of schools you can go to, but there aren't very many. But when a kid is from the East Coast or from Texas, there's no end to the number of schools. Texas is big time. Texas Tech is big time. Texas A&M is big time. It's not that far to LSU. They'll pay for sure. It's not that far to Oklahoma from Dallas. You can get to Oklahoma City in like 3 hours. So I think they got to factor all that stuff in. It's a case-by-case basis. It's not particularly surprising that this one might end up biting them, right? But also, he's in a portal. He's not gone. If he's truly highest bidder guy, and if you're really convinced he's the guy, and if you're not going to be outbid, maybe he's a shrewd businessman. He and his people are just like, hey, I bet they'll pay if we do this.
Oh, Rob Wright?
He's got a little leverage.
Yeah. I mean, he's already done it. He's already proven he and his people are shrewd because he's already done it once.
He signed a contract to Baylor and then bailed.
Yeah, so he's already shown it.
Bye.
Right. So and I don't blame the kid whatsoever. And I'm not even sure I blame Kevin Young because he's trying to win. He's doing everything possible to try to win at the highest level. And if I'm a BYU fan, that's what I want. I just don't know how they reconcile BYU is different. And we know how they're different, right? We understand it. And you bring a kid in that has no connection. Is it worth it to do that and then have him bolt? Because now we're in the 2 point guards that they've had have only stayed, really the 3 point guards, include Hall, all three of them have only stayed at BYU 1 year. Hall, Yegor, and Wright. And is that something that you need to look at and say, maybe we spend the money over here a little bit differently, and so this kid is not quite as individually talented as Robert Wright, but I got a better chance of having him be in the program. And I'm not, this is no criticism of Kevin Young. I believe in the guy 100%. And I know
This is the learning curve.
some stuff has gotten back to me about him thinking that I criticize him, but it's not the case. At the end of the season, in Portland, he did shake my hand and said, "Thanks for covering our team this year." That literally happened, and he was not just me. There was other guys too, and so we do cover the team. I went to more games, and we follow the team. I'm just wondering out loud, what is the best strategy for this program going forward? Not claiming that I've got a bunch of answers here.
So there's another thing that we haven't even talked about, and this is a basketball thing, and we will get to that next. Stay with us. DJ and P 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for the Copper Rock Masters giveaway. Be caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, and you'll be assigned a player in the field to the Masters this week. We're giving away a top 25, and also a 26th qualifier will get the field. If a golfer wins the Masters, you'll win 18 holes for 2 at Copper Rock Golf Course in Hurricane, and a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. We have more golf coming up, including Bob Casper from the Masters. He'll join us in our very next segment. Right now, we're talking about Rob Wright, the news he's going into the transfer portal. The question, is it worth it? Should they be counting on these one and dones? And, PK, I think the answer definitely is depends. But I think the thing, and you brought up Yegor last year, and I think the thing is, with Wright, he's a 6-foot-tall guy. And his offensive numbers, he's 18 points and shoots 41% and all that. But a 6-foot guard, how good are you defensively? Are you dominant defensively? This team has got to get better defensively. I'm willing to roll the dice on the guys who are big for their position. And I'm especially more likely to, if I were calling the shots, which obviously I'm not, but I'm more likely to do it if there's a relationship between Travis and Yegor. So there's a better chance he's a BYU guy and he knows what he's getting into and he'll fit. AJ DeBonsa came to Utah for his senior year of high school. There's a better chance he'll fit. They're both big for their position, so I'm more likely to take a chance if I have some doubt and roll my dice. But a 6-foot-tall, ball-dominant point guard who doesn't have a tie here, yeah, those are the other elements that make me think that's a riskier call, especially if you've got someone in the program who can play that position at a pretty good level. Maybe you think Wright can play it a little bit. Is the risk worth it for that little bit of improvement? It's hindsight sitting here talking about it now. Yeah. And maybe they will get him back. Maybe it's just leverage for cash and they've got it and this will all work out. But I think you got to weigh all those things. The other guys are 6'9", and they're going against guys that they're much bigger than. And to some degree or another, I'm finding that there's a relationship other than being the highest bidder. And so that makes me feel better. And then it's case by case, and you got to weigh and decide when to roll the dice. The other thing that we haven't talked about in this is that given the teams that I grew up either A, rooting for or B, covering, and certainly what I saw when I moved to Utah and Lavelle Edwards and Jerry Sloan and really even Ron McBride, who was there more than a decade, the benefits that all of those teams/schools got from continuity were really big. There were real benefits in continuity. And I saw that with Jerry Pym when I was at UC Santa Barbara, the same deal. But in this era, when all the rules have changed so much and there's no guardrails, I never thought I heard guardrails with college sports this much. And there's no guardrails. Man, Indiana and Michigan, you got second-year coaches. There's no continuity there. And we've seen it with Utah State going through 6 coaches in 10 years. You really can put together a team in 1 year. So maybe it's up to the rest of us also to think, and also coaches have always valued continuity, to think continuity just doesn't count as much for these days under these rules. It's not like Arizona and Duke have a ton of continuity. Now, they didn't get where they wanted. Arizona got to the Final Four, and they wanted that. They got to they didn't get the title that they wanted. Duke's had Elite Eight and Final Fours, and they're building their rosters every year. So maybe we should be less perturbed by the one and done as long as those kids are good enough to deliver.
Well, I still think for BYU, because they're different, they're not Duke. They're not Indiana's school over there.
And they're not Michigan and not Arizona.
Whoever it might be.
I get your point.
Right. And you can't just go and recruit like everybody else and then tell us you're different. That doesn't jive.
We're different until it comes to basketball. I do think that there is value, and you see this in the regular season, you see it in the tournament. The player with the most talent doesn't necessarily win. The freshman with more talent loses to a third or fourth year player who's got good talent, but not great talent, but they've got experience. They've been through it. So that's a place where continuity can still pay off.
Right. And Rob Wright's a sophomore, but
right, he is. Yeah.
I just think, what's the pull to keep him? If somebody over here is offering me more money and I'm not a BYU guy, my family, like DeBonsa, they all moved out and they embraced themselves in the community. And good for them. It's a success story. If he was a success. It was worth having him in the program. He brought you untold publicity that there's no way you could have bought. You just couldn't have. And he's going to represent BYU. I just don't feel like Rob Wright is going to represent BYU. He's going to represent himself. So was that worth it? And there's not a tie to want to stay. It's just give me more money. There might be some guys who say, hey, I want to go to BYU, and I'm going to leave money on the table because this is where I want to be. Those are the guys you want.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the case, even what we heard with DeBonsa. Like, here's the threshold. Once you get to the threshold, now he's so good and he'll probably be the number one pick. And so his threshold's higher. But for the players who are like, okay, this is my number. Now there's 3, 5, 6, whatever schools, 2, whatever it is, who met that number. Now I'm going to let the other stuff decide. That, I think, would give you a little more confidence. Okay, we got a chance to build a relationship but based on whatever other this kid decides, as opposed to simply it's an auction, who's the highest bidder.